money truck. Fuck these slugs, we don't give a fuck. Tell them all, you gotta catch me, you gotta catch me, ain't no catching me.
She called her mother 4 times, back to back. Her mother didn't answer. Those were the last calls Wilanna Bibbs ever made. She was 20 years old. She had a voice that could fill a room. She had dreams bigger than her hometown. She had a future, and then on Mother's Day she had none of those things because the man standing next to her had a gun. And minutes before that trigger was pulled, Wilanna had already told someone what was about to happen. She told a friend, "He is going to kill me." So why didn't anyone stop it? Welcome to Real Crime Stories, the channel where we go beyond the headlines and into the truth behind some of the most shocking cases you've never heard enough about. If this is your first time here, you're in the right place. If you've been here before, you already know we don't hold back. Before we go any further, if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on your notifications, because this case goes deeper than you think, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Let's begin. Her name was Wilanna S. Bibbs, and if you had met her, you would have remembered her. Not because of anything dramatic, not because of anything dark, but because she carried something rare. That specific kind of energy that makes a room feel different. The moment someone walks into it. She grew up in Durham, North Carolina, a city known for its grit, its culture, its music. And Wilanna absorbed all of it. From an early age, she gravitated toward 2 things: her appearance and her artistry. She was a talented makeup artist. But singing was the obsession. It wasn't just a hobby. It was a calling, something that lived deep in her chest and refused to stay quiet. So at some point, Wilanna made a decision that thousands of young women make every single year. She packed up everything familiar, left behind everything comfortable, and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, the city of opportunity, the city where careers are born overnight, and dreams either catch fire or burn out entirely. For a while, it felt like hers was catching. It was in Atlanta that she crossed paths with a man named Justin Lamont Wright. On paper, he was impressive. By his mid-30s, Wright had carved out a significant name for himself in the industry. He operated under the professional alias J. Wright. He founded a company called Camp Entertainment Worldwide back in 2011. Through that platform, he built connections with some of the biggest names in music: Timbaland, DJ Khaled, Cash Doll, Bow Wow. He even claimed relationships with VH1, Sony Entertainment, and Lionsgate. He described himself as someone who had earned a platinum credit before he was even 16 years old. For an aspiring young singer trying to navigate a competitive industry, a man like that would seem like an open door. Maybe even a godsend. The two began dating. According to those closest to Wilanna, the relationship moved quickly. They started spending significant time together. Eventually, they moved in under the same roof. But behind closed doors, something else was taking shape. Cassandra Bibbs, Wilanna's mother, described the dynamic between her daughter and Wright as toxic, controlling, she said. Wright, in her estimation, had issues with the bond Wilanna maintained with her family. A bond built on consistent check-ins, constant communication, the kind of closeness that some people find beautiful and others find threatening. "I think he might have been a little jealous," Cassandra would later say. "We always called her, we always checked in. There were arguments. There were signs. The kind that, in hindsight, always seem impossible to ignore. Yet in the moment, love has a way of softening edges. That should stay sharp, By early May 2021, Wilanna and Wright were traveling together. Their destination, Davenport, Iowa, a modest city along the Mississippi River. Far removed from the Atlanta skyline they had left behind. Wright had ties there, family connections. The trip, according to Cassandra, was tied to a birthday gathering. Ordinary enough. The kind of weekend that comes and goes without consequence. For most couples, but something was already simmering beneath the surface of this one. Something Wilanna may have already sensed. Because the people who knew her best say she had not been herself in the days leading up to that trip. She was uneasy, unsettled, and on the morning of May 9th, 2021, a Sunday, the day the world sets aside to honor its mothers, Wilanna picked up her phone and typed out a message to hers. "Hey Mom, happy Mother's Day. I love you and appreciate everything you do. Love, but call me." Cassandra saw the message. She tried to call back. No answer, just minutes before everything ended, May 9th, 2021. Davenport, Iowa. A quiet Sunday afternoon. In a residential neighborhood most people outside the Midwest had never heard of. 1500 block of Calvin Street. A house, a couple, and a tension that had been building for longer than anyone outside those four walls fully understood. Earlier that morning, Wilanna had reached out to her mother. That message went unanswered in the moment. Not out of neglect, but out of the ordinary chaos of daily life. Cassandra was at work. She missed the call. Then she missed another one, then another. 4 calls back to back. By the time Cassandra looked down at her phone and registered what she was seeing, the calls had stopped. Forever, that would have probably been her last calls trying to reach me. Cassandra later said, "And I'm real sick about it." Those words have never stopped echoing, but the phone calls to her mother were not the only communication Wilanna made that morning. There was someone else she reached out to. A friend. And what she said to that friend is perhaps the most haunting detail in this entire case. Because Wilanna Bibbs did not simply say she was scared. She did not hint at danger. She did not speak in vague, uncertain terms. She was direct, precise, terrifyingly clear. She told her friend, "He is going to kill me. Not might, not could, is going to." Present tense. Immediate. Certain. At approximately 1:25 in the afternoon, Davenport Police Department received a call. A disturbance. 1500 block of Calvin Street. Officers arrived within minutes. What they found inside that house was not a disturbance. It was a crime scene. Wilanna S. Bibbs, 20 years old, aspiring singer, somebody's daughter, had been shot. Davenport Fire and Medic responded alongside officers. She was pronounced dead at the scene. She never made it to a hospital. She never got another chance to dial her mother back. She never got to finish whatever sentence she had been trying to complete. Across those 4 desperate, unanswered calls, Justin Wright was still on the premises. He was taken into custody the following day, Monday, May 10th, and charged with first-degree murder. Held without bond initially. Wright later appeared before a judge, who set bail at $500,000, an amount Wright could not meet. Notably, this was a man who had spent years presenting himself as a heavyweight in the entertainment industry. Platinum records, major label relationships, corporate partnerships. Yet when the moment came, he requested a court-appointed attorney. He claimed he had no money. The contrast was not lost on anyone paying attention, As detectives processed the scene on Calvin Street, the picture that emerged was not complicated. Wright had shot Willanna in the back. The bullet, or rather the trajectory of it, tells its own story. She was not facing him. She was not in a standoff. She was not lunging forward. She was moving away. The shot struck her spine, her heart, her liver, 3 vital structures. 1 bullet, 0 chance of survival. Prosecutors would later argue this was not a crime of sudden impulse, not a moment where 2 people lost control simultaneously. This was a man who raised a weapon at a woman whose back was turned, back in Durham, North Carolina. Cassandra Bibbs received the call no parent is ever prepared for. Her daughter, the one who texted her Happy Mother's Day just hours earlier, the one whose voice she had been unable to reach in time, was gone, killed on the very day set aside to celebrate mothers. The cruelty of that timing is not incidental. It is the kind of detail that stays lodged in the chest. Long after the facts of a case have faded, Cassandra did not collapse into silence. Instead, she spoke. Loudly, publicly. Share Wilanna's story, she said. Maybe it will help somebody else going through the same thing. Those words became a mission. And that mission was far from finished. Nearly 2 years passed. 2 years of court dates, of postponements, of paperwork and legal maneuvering, of a grieving family watching the justice system move at its own unhurried pace, while they carried the weight of loss. Every single morning they opened their eyes. But March 28, 2023 finally arrived. And with it the trial, Scott County District Court, Davenport, Iowa. Justin Lamont Wright, now 33 years old, sat at the defense table. Across the room, Scott County Attorney Kelly Cunningham, prepared to lay out a case that she and her team had been constructing, brick by careful brick, since the afternoon officers first walked onto Calvin Street. The trial would span 10 days, 10 days of testimony, 10 days of evidence, 10 days of Wilanna's family sitting in that room or joining via video conference from North Carolina and reliving the worst chapter of their existence so that a jury of 12 strangers could understand exactly what had been taken from them. The prosecution's argument was surgical. They walked jurors through the physical evidence, the trajectory of the gunshot, the precise location of entry, the organs destroyed. They presented the testimony of the friend Wilanna had contacted shortly before her death. The friend who heard those words, "He is going to kill me," spoken aloud, recorded in memory, now delivered under oath inside a courtroom, to people holding Wright's future in their hands. They painted a portrait, not of a spontaneous explosion, but of a pattern, a controlling relationship, a man who could not tolerate independence. In someone he claimed to love, Wright pleaded not guilty. He had done so from the very beginning, entering that plea in writing back in June 2021, weeks after Wilanna's body had been laid to rest. His defense had 2 years to construct an alternative narrative, 10 days to present it. But some truths are simply too heavy for any argument to lift. April 10, 2023. The jury filed back into the courtroom. They had been deliberating for approximately 90 minutes. 90 minutes for a 10-day trial, for a life taken, for a family shattered. 90 minutes was all it took for 12 people to reach a unanimous conclusion. Guilty. First-degree murder. The sentencing hearing followed weeks later. And it was there, standing before a judge, with Wright seated just meters away. that Wilanna's family finally exhaled. Cassandra Bibbs spoke. After everything, the unanswered calls, the Mother's Day that became a funeral, the 2 years of waiting, she looked at the outcome and said simply, "This came out how we wanted it to come out," words carrying the full mass of everything she had endured. Thomas Bibbs, Wilanna's father, also addressed the court. His statement was direct, unflinching, devastatingly precise. He told the room that Wright had murdered his daughter. Over $70. $70. Not a rivalry. Not a conspiracy. Not some elaborate, complicated motive that might take hours to untangle. $70. He also referenced a warning he had given his daughter. Long before any of this unfolded, he had seen something in Wright, sensed something off, and had told Wilanna directly. She was young. She was in love. She believed it would be different. It wasn't. Thomas Bibbs looked at the man who took his child and called him exactly what he believed him to be. A clown. Not a monster worthy of elaborate description. Not someone deserving of inflated significance. A clown judge presiding over the Scott County case handed down the only sentence available under Iowa law for first-degree murder. Life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Justin Wright, songwriter, entrepreneur, industry insider, would never record another credit, would never negotiate another deal, would never walk out of a facility as a free man again. He chose not to speak during sentencing, as officers moved to escort him out. His mother asked if she could say goodbye to her son. A deputy shook his head and kept walking. Wright subsequently filed an appeal with the Iowa Supreme Court. As of now, that appeal has not overturned his conviction. He remains behind bars. And Wilanna Bibbs, the girl from Durham with the voice, the makeup brush, and the dream that brought her to Atlanta, remains frozen at 20 years old. A photograph beside her mother. A story her family refuses to let disappear. A name that deserves to be spoken, far more than it has been. If you are in a relationship that feels controlling, if someone is isolating you from the people who love you, if a voice inside you is whispering what Wilanna's was screaming, listen to it. Because she tried to tell someone, and the world did not move fast enough.